Well, welcome back to the CVine News International weekly conference call, and I am Linda Forsythe. I am joined this evening with Chad Bianco, and we are going to be interviewing him, and I am going to be having assistance with Leonard Bacani, who is also a retired police officer, and we have a very explosive show on tonight, so a lot of information going on. Even though this is an international conference call, you may be wondering why we're having Chad Bianco, who is running for sheriff of Riverside County in Southern California. Well, the reason is the issues facing law enforcement are surprisingly similar globally. And we're going to discuss those issues head on since we are on the call with an international attendance. But there's also a significant law enforcement following from Southern California this evening. Now, what's really interesting is the rule of law has been compromised, and it's not just in Southern California, it's everywhere. Well, how is that? It's because it's become politicized, and it has become hijacked by special interest groups and those with an agenda to serve the interest of, quite frankly, an elite few. It has been manipulated by the mainstream media for the purposes of public indoctrination. CVine News is basically taking a stand, and we're going to do our part in trying to bring back the rule of law by staunchly supporting election candidates who stand by the United States Constitution that respect the rule of law and will fight for the citizens who have elected them. We also will be using this time to educate the public on history and to inform of our latest research findings. This evening, I am going to be asking some really hard questions from Chad Bianco, but additional questions will be coming from Leonard Bacani, who has significant following from law enforcement from also Southern California. The problem in Southern California is basically corruption, bad leadership, allowing sanctuary cities in our state to be occupied by lawless and or violent illegal aliens, even if they have significant histories of this type of a past. We even have obstruction of justice away from the established laws that allow for early release from the jails that are violent offenders, and also illegal aliens and currently imprisoned felons being allowed to vote, and laws obstructing ICE from deporting violent offenders from our jails back to their original country of origin. Many have gone back into our population to commit even more crimes. Some even have committed rape and murder after being released. So after a multitude of interviews that I've conducted from a wide selection of law enforcement that are either active or retired across Riverside County, I can tell you that the troops are not happy with the current sheriff, Sniff. So I wanted to go over briefly a few of the statements of noteworthiness from some of them. Okay, first person states, currently I'm working for a cover-up corruption case against department members. The major part of the problem with the department is what they call second floor, meaning it's where the sheriff has his office and the administration and his administration staff. Most of the administrative staff got there not because of merit, but because they are the sheriff's minions, quote unquote. So they can do anything they want because they're shielded. Another individual states, the department is understaffed and is losing deputies to other departments, not because of pay, but rather because of turmoil within the department. The third person says, Chad is a good man. People trust Chad's new blood. He's innovative, and he's a Christian, and he wants to make changes for the better. He's a leader and well-spoken and very well-liked. He's a true professional. He's kind and caring and a person who gives second chances to people in life. Sniff, on the other hand, is an atheist and a Democrat, and our current sheriff, Sniff, believes in sanctuary cities and does not want to cooperate with ICE. He has released multiple prisoners who are the bad guys and won't replace broken equipment, and he chooses some of his staff because of personal reasons versus skill. And the final person mentions, everybody has just about had enough. Excuse me. Our old sheriff has seen his day, and it's time for him to retire. It's time for Chad to take over. What burns me the most is there are some corrupt deputies that work in Sniff's department. that I can't name because I'm involved with active criminal cases against them. Chad knows who they are, so I'm sure he will do his best to figure out how he will handle the situation when he comes on board. Well, welcome, Chad, this evening for this evening's call. I am very honored that you're joining us.
Well, thank you. I hope I'm not muted out.
You're not. No, we can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, good. I was panicking when I heard you say that earlier.
No, we can hear you. We can hear you beautifully. Now, Chad, I would like you to go over briefly. You have a wonderful statement that you make about what your belief is and what you are going to be doing as elected as the sheriff for Riverside County District. But before you do that, why don't you give us a little bit of an idea, since there are people on internationally, on where Riverside County is, how big it is, and what is the jurisdiction you're looking at?
Sure. Riverside County is in Southern California. We're a little bit, I guess we're considered the greater Los Angeles area, but to the east. Riverside County runs it borders kind of Los Angeles, Orange County, but then it runs all the way to the Arizona border and borders San Diego and San Bernardino County. It's a very large county, 7,200 square miles. Our population is right around 2.4 million. So we are quite large in area and also a pretty good population. We're a very large department. We've got about 4,000 employees, a little bit shy of 4,000 employees. 2,600 roughly are law enforcement officers, and the rest make up our clerical staff and support system staff. But we're relatively a large agency. We're the fourth largest police agency in the state, the second largest sheriff's department, only behind Los Angeles Sheriff. So we're very large. Covers a big land mass and personnel also.
Well, so you're going to have your hands full.
Very much.
That absolutely. Why don't you go ahead and give us an abbreviated synopsis on what it is that you are looking to do and your history?
Sure. Just a brief history, work history. I've been with the department for 25 years. I have a very extensive, I guess, broad area of expertise, I guess, within the department. I've worked many years in corrections patrol. My troop experiences, narcotics gangs. I did a stint in internal affairs, administrative work, administration staff. Then I started promoting, and so I've managed, supervised, or worked pretty much every aspect of our department. So one of the big things with us is budget, obviously like everybody else, but we have a lot of contract cities. We have 18 contract cities that we contract with. Our biggest one is about a $45 million a year budget. Overall, the county budget for the Sheriff's Department is roughly $700 million. So we're quite large. It's an expansive. You said it earlier. The task I'm looking to take on is not easy, but I feel like we're up for it. And you surround yourself with competent and reliable individuals, and that's how you end up making the difference. As far as me running for sheriff, there's so many different things, and I'll keep it as brief as possible. And number one, and really most important, is just the way we do business. Over the past 20 years, really in law enforcement, and it's maybe even been a little bit more than 20 years, we've really been moving toward a very proactive way of doing law enforcement, and that really is highlighted or emphasized with community-oriented policing. And that is just a philosophy where the law enforcement and the community is engaging together to make a difference. You've got to have a working relationship and a personal relationship with the community that we serve, and it basically makes them trust us. Our problem with that is we don't do that. We are very reactive in nature. We always have been. You call 911, and you'll get us to respond out, and we'll take a report, and then we'll move on to the next call for service. So basically what we are is report takers. That's all we are, is documenting crime. And we really need to change the way we do business. We need to change the culture of our department to a proactive agency where we concentrate more on quality of life issues and addressing those issues before they become problems in our communities. And we really move to identifying crime spots and hitting those proactively, so we take care of the constituents that we're supposed to be serving.
Well, outstanding, beautifully said. You know, Chad, in the past, it was left up to law enforcement, for the most part, to determine what was necessary in order to enforce the law, as they were the most knowledgeable about the existing circumstances as they unfold. If there's protesters or, any number of various different things going on. Has that changed? Let me clarify that. In other words, many are saying the strings are being pulled from the top and very much politicized. Do you have the ability to move beyond that, enforce the law as it stands now if you are elected, or will your hands be tied?
Wow, that's a very tough question, a very broad question, and to a small extent, you are correct. The politicization, a tongue twister there. California is very much being controlled by politics, and as far as law enforcement is concerned, not in a positive fashion. It seems to us like our politicians in the state of California care more about criminals and inmate rights than they do citizen and resident rights. And it's they kind of are, gosh, I don't want to say pulling the strings. They're tying our hands a little bit with some of the laws that they pass. There's a huge push to basically just pretty much eliminate crime by making all the crimes that are currently crimes, making them not a crime anymore. They had within the last couple of years, they've passed two major propositions, 47 and 57, that decriminalized a lot of actions that used to be crimes. Many of them were changed from from felonies to misdemeanors, and then also from misdemeanors to infractions, which really there's no punishment for that. There's no deterrent to stop that type of activity. So the politicians are handcuffing us a little bit, but still, as the sheriff, we're a politically elected office, so we're a constitutional officer elected by our constituents, and we're sworn to not only uphold the laws of the state, but also the Constitution of the U.S. and the state of California. So, I don't want to say that that we would be forced to break the law in something, but we definitely have. Instead of just going out and fighting crime, we're also fighting our politicians here in Southern California.
So it's going to be up to us, the citizens, to get out there and vote the bad hats, so to speak, the black hats, good bad actors out of office, so we can get the rule of law back, and there isn't such a releasing of bad actions from criminals out back into the public, that it's going to be, the rule of law is going to come back into play again. So, yes, I understand you have to follow the laws that are passed. Now, I have found out through my research that there is some serious investigations going on to the existing department with Stan Sniff having to do with corruption. And you mentioned during our conversation the other day that there is even some situations with Stan Sniff that has never been followed through with some allegations. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Wow, we're really going to go down this little rabbit hole.
Yes, we are.
Unfortunately, there definitely are a couple of them. Right now in the news, we've had several news reports come out, and several they're adults now, but they were victims several years ago of molestation, and it was the suspect in the case was one of our deputies. He was an investigator with us, and the facts of the case are basically, it appears he's molested multiple people, potentially dozens, and at the time he was not arrested. He was let go, which was against the investigators' wishes. The lead investigators in charge of the case had more than enough to arrest him. He was, technically, I guess, he was in custody. They were ready to take him to jail, and word came down from administration that they were not allowed to arrest him and that they had to let him go. And he was released. He was out with no continued investigation on the case for, I want to say 10 or 12 days. I can't remember exactly, but eventually he took his own life. He committed suicide. And when that happened, obviously the investigation stopped. Nothing else was said in the press. There was a press release just saying that he was under criminal investigation and that he had taken his life, but nothing about the molestation. We did nothing to, we really didn't try and identify victims. We didn't, what would typically happen is he should have been arrested at the time. We should have done a press release saying he was arrested, and we're looking for potentially more victims. And then we could have helped those victims. I mean, they're children that were being molested, and we do owe it to them. Like any other case, we would have provided, victim assistance to those kids, whether it be psychologically or to their family, assistance to their family, something. And it unfortunately was covered up, and it remained covered up for about 8 years, and we really aren't sure how or why it came up now. We don't know if one of the investigators retired, because what they're calling whistleblowers, it's confidential so far, and they're only going to the media and bringing this out, and then there's a private investigations firm that is looking into it also. But internally, we know what happened. It spreads like wildfire through law enforcement, especially when one of your own should be arrested, or this investigation was going on. It was obvious to all of us. And the current sheriff did cover it up. He was in an election year. It was in 2010. And it's the belief that he just felt like bad publicity would be bad for his election. And it really was just brushed under the rug. So that's coming up. I mean, there's a couple more, but that is the worst. One that we didn't talk about was even, how he even took office. I mean, that's a cover-up in and of itself. So I don't know if you want to go that far into it, but this
yes,
one right
I
now,
do. I want to hear. I think we all want to hear what we are going to be getting ourselves into if Stan Sniff gets elected again. And so, absolutely, please enlighten us.
I'll make this very brief. Basically, and I don't know of the year of this, if it was 2006 or 5, it may have been the very beginning of 2007, but I don't think so. He took office in 2007. But 2005 or 2006, he was fired from us. And recently, in a Facebook post, nonetheless, the sheriff at that time said that he was fired for dishonesty. So you have an employee fired for dishonesty in 2005. And then in 2007, the Board of Supervisors appointed him as sheriff. So our current sheriff at the time resigned, and he took a job with the state. So we had a vacancy as sheriff, and the Board of Supervisors decided that they would appoint, and they appointed Stan Sniff as sheriff, even though he had been fired a year and a half prior. And what I found out over the next couple of years really is what led me down the path of wanting to run for sheriff. And it was the corruption that, as a law enforcement officer, and hopefully we've got some law enforcement officers out there listening, when we have a bad apple, it makes us all look bad. And the kiss of death in our line of work is dishonesty. You cannot have a dishonest cop. Right now they're called there's a Brady list, and if you're on that Brady list, you can never testify in court. So now we know that the current sheriff was fired for dishonesty. He was appointed, and what I found out around in 2009 or 10, when people, started giving me information about it, and I really started looking into it, is the current sheriff helped cover up an investigation into our Deputies Association. The Deputies Association was under investigation by the state, by DOJ, Department of Justice for the state of California, for multiple counts of money laundering, embezzlement, and fraud. And it is alleged that there was an agreement made between the association and the sheriff that if they were able to get him appointed, then he would do away with that criminal investigation and the accompanying administrative investigation, which would have at the minimum got them all fired. And lo and behold, he gets appointed, largely in help by the Sheriff's Association that made their case to the Board of Supervisors who were appointing. And that criminal case and the administrative investigation case went away. Now, if there are cops out there, that can't happen. Criminal investigations don't disappear, and certainly administrative investigations don't disappear. And this became a little bit of an issue in the 2010 election. The person that was running against him brought it up, and Stan dismissed it and said that the investigation was complete and that there was no proof of any wrongdoing. There was no criminal violations. He lays on this what we know now is another lie, and it just moved on. Everybody forgot about it. I ran for election in 2014, and I used this as one of the platforms of corruption and dishonesty of the current sheriff, and I obtained almost all of the information that showed that all of this was covered up. That has yet to be brought out yet. We have most of the people other than the current sheriff are retired already, so he kept them all out of prison long enough that they could enjoy their retirement. He's the final one. The beauty of it, though, is because he was an elected official, there is no statute of limitations on him. So one of the, and I've made it very clear that once I am sheriff that this will be reopened. We will uncover that evidence again. And if there's any type of prosecution to be done, it will be done. And I believe that really that's why he's fighting so hard at his age, especially to get me out, because he does not want his legacy to be to be exposed of how he took office, which was basically surrounded in fraud, deceit, and crimes. And then we've continued. So we know he was fired for dishonesty. He was dishonest when he got put in position. He's covered up crimes. This sex crime that was covered up and just hidden away. We've had a couple of cheating scandals in our department that somehow have remained out of the press. They ask and we lie and say that it didn't happen. And it's just an ongoing unethical and immoral administration that we have that is led by the most unethical and the most dishonest. And it's horrible that I have to say this, and a lot of people think, well, you're just disgruntled, whatever it is, but really everyone in our department knows it. I just had the fortitude, I guess you could say, to be the one to bring it up and talk about it and bring this out to the forefront. And I am protected a little bit because I'm running for election. He can't fire me while I'm running for election and talking about all of these things. So I do have a little bit of help with the law behind me to get these issues out. During the election, he has repeatedly just lied. Almost every time he talks to the media, he makes dishonest statements. And it's very sad. We had a community forum last night that is making its way around on Facebook right now. Someone taped it, and they're putting the video out on Facebook. And it's that several times in the video, he just blatantly lies. And back to the cops that are listening, even the people that are listening that are not cops. We cannot have dishonest people in law enforcement. We do a very good job. We're supposed to be the ethical. You're supposed to believe the police when they tell you something. And that's why we police our own. We try and get bad cops out, especially dishonest ones. The problem with a dishonest sheriff is the only people that can get him out are the voters, and you only have one chance every 4 years. Luckily for me, that's where we are right now, and we're hoping that, we're able to get the message out enough that we need a different sheriff, we need a different direction, among other things that we could be doing better within just how we do business. Number one is law enforcement needs an ethical, moral, honest leader. And the list just keeps going on, and as we go on, more things get brought up that either may be covered up or may be hidden, more ethical dilemmas that were not handled correctly during his tenure. It's almost movie worthy.
Well, it sounds like it, and I deeply appreciate you bringing these things out. I do know for a fact that there is a large majority of Californians that are just plain sick of the corruption and the what's been going on with our state in general. So I do believe there is going to be a significant red wave, and I also, because of my own investigations, as I mentioned, people in law enforcement can see it, and they know what's going on. They know what you're saying about Stan Sniff is true, and their hands have been rather tied because, as you said, he's elected into office. With that being said, do you feel that you're being punished for running against Stan when you did previously? In other words, he's trying to dissuade you from running again. Has he been doing anything to make your life miserable?
Well, he's certainly attempting to make my life miserable, and the word "punished" is a fine line. I'll explain it, but technically, yes, he is, and what he's basically doing is I've been stripped of all responsibility. So after the 2014 election, I did lose in that election, and immediately after, I was placed in an office with a computer and a desk. The computer had internet access, but that was it. I had no access to the department. I was forbidden from being in any county buildings, sheriff buildings. I didn't attend training for the actual days were 799 days. I sat in that office with no responsibility. Maybe to be, full disclosure, they gave me a couple of silly staff assignments that may have taken me at the most 5 or 6 days out of that 799 to complete. And other than that, I sat there all day with absolutely nothing to do, purposely to keep me away from the department, sending a message to everybody else that you don't run against the sheriff. And I believe it was to dissuade me from running again, because every couple of months, one of my superiors from the second floor administration would come down and ask me if I was planning on running again. Of course, I told them no, and at the time I really didn't have any intention, but I was discovered down in that administration building by an audit, and the auditors brought it up to the sheriff why he was wasting money on a lieutenant doing absolutely nothing. And the next day I was transferred back to a patrol station. Obviously, my life was happy again. I was doing what I should be doing. That only lasted about 10 months before the Deputies Association asked me if I would run again. And immediately that rumor got out quick, and immediately I was stripped of all responsibility again. So I'm assigned to one of our patrol stations, our Hemet Station, and I really have no duties anymore. Everything was taken away from me. So I drive to work every day, and I sit here. I can talk to employees, but I have no responsibility here at the station. They brought someone else in to take my place, and that person runs the station, took away what I was doing before. So it's one of the issues of the dishonesty part. That question came up last night. One of the people in the audience asked him if he is punishing me, and he looked right at them all and said, no. It isn't happening. He would never do that. Well, it's a blatant lie. And the reason why he has to lie is because, if I was the suing type, I could sue. I could have sued a long time ago. But my belief of that is all I would be doing is taking taxpayer money. It's not going to come from him where it should come from. And, honestly, I still have a job, and, I'm still supporting my family. So other than being bored all day and wasting taxpayer money because of the sheriff's childish behavior, I have no intention to sue, and running against him and beating him is going to be the way to make it right.
Well, it's interesting that it really speaks on how there is such a waste of talent by doing this with you, because you are endorsed by Riverside police and sheriffs and law enforcement groups from around the state. And this includes California Statewide Law Enforcement Association, the Southern California Alliance of Law Enforcement, California Correctional Peace Officers Association, the Corona Police Officers Association, Hemet Police Officers Association. I mean, I've got an entire laundry list of law enforcement that are just screaming your praises and, quite frankly, desperately watch you in. So there's a whole lot of people that does see what your capabilities are, and so the fact of what's happening here, I think, is pretty much self-evident. Now, Chad, for the next couple of questions, I'm going to release these to Leonard McConney. Leonard is a retired police officer after working 15 years of field and first responder investigations on the Santa Ana Police Department, and he's now actively working with Homeland Security Services, Inc. for 18 years. And it's a private investigations firm that he founded that has 400-plus employees. And we at CVine have appointed Leonard to our advisory board because of his expertise, his history, and background. So thank you, Leonard. I know you have some people that from law enforcement of various different types that had a bunch of questions they wanted you to ask.
Well, thank you, Linda, and thank you, Chad, for agreeing to this interview with me and Linda. If you don't mind, I'd like to read from some of the questions and comments from some of my Facebook friends, the vast majority of whom are law enforcement, if you don't mind. Okay, so Sue Ann R. wrote, I know people that know him, including my brother-in-law who used to work with him at RSO. I hear nothing but great things about him. We need someone like him in. Need to do away with the current shenanigans and with current ones in charge. Chad, what do you think, what current shenanigans do you think Sue Ann's referring to?
Oh my gosh, Leonard, that would probably open up another hour of the show. It's really hard to say. I mean, we've got our major issue that we have right now is we've got two. We've got the cover-up of the investigator that was committing the sex crimes, but then we also have a cheating scandal where we had a group of what was rumored to possibly be over 100 deputies that were caught cheating on a promotions exam, and it was another one. It was a major cover-up by the department. Word got out to the media, and they asked about it, and it was denied that there was one. But we know that there were 26 individuals that were named in the investigation. Rumor was that it should have been a lot more, but they tried to basically just get it done quick. The problem with it is a lot of them got disciplined for cheating, and now they're being promoted. And
wow.
It doesn't make any sense. It's caused a lot of relationship problems inside the department with the ones that are getting promoted above their peers that didn't cheat, and it just seems like the morale in the department is very, very low, and they were looking for ethical, moral, honest leaders. And what we're finding is it seems like the people that are being promoted, or the perception of the people being promoted, are exactly the opposite. and they've got dishonesty issues in their background, or they've got racial issues in their background, or even things like sexual harassment in their background, or infidelity. And it's almost just to the point where the employees are fed up so much that everyone's just leaving and going to other agencies. And they just want the double standard gone, to where administration and management is held to the same standards as what the line staff is.
Right. Chad, I can tell you that I've personally spoken to very great multitude of RSO deputies, and they're looking for leadership, and they're looking to you to provide that leadership, and they're behind you 100%, as well as surrounding agencies as well. Mm-hmm. Let's go on. Isidro, or Izzy G, he wrote, "I'm married to a deputy, and Sniff has been out of sight. Blame the county financial issues on his own deputies' raises and benefits. Most jail deputies are working forced OT, working 6 days a week, 12.5-hour shifts, 20 deputies on overtime on one shift, just because Sniff wanted to save money." And he also comments about the last time Sniff won, he punished you for running against him by sending you to a post out of sight and doing nothing. But can you address that? What kind of issues is Riverside County having as far as staffing issues?
Our staffing issues are they're enormous. It's a major problem that we have right now, and it came to a head, and it came to easy to realize and see where the problem is at the end of this fiscal year, which was in June. And for the last year, the current sheriff was saying almost every day, blaming the Board of Supervisors for not giving us enough money. He couldn't do his job because he didn't have enough money to hire enough personnel. And that was the mantra of all of his media interaction. It was anywhere for all of his problems are blamed on the state, blamed on the Board of Supervisors, blamed on contract cities. Then he did, like Isidro said, he blamed it on the deputies and said all of our budget woes was the deputies' fault because they accepted raises. It was odd to all of us because it's been a long time since we had received raises, so we didn't really know what he was talking about, but it shows the dishonesty again. And it came to a head when he gave back this year, when he, how he describes it, he says he found $10 million in surplus funds. Now, I would like to find $10 million in surplus funds. And the reality of that is just a complete mismanagement of our department in the name of him trying to be a hero to say he saved money. While he was claiming that he needed more money and needed to hire more deputies, he was purposely allowing natural attrition in the department to happen to the tune of $10 million, which equates to about 130 deputies, maybe even a little bit more. So he failed to maintain our staffing of 130 just so he can say he saved money at the end, while at the same time, Isidro's wife is being forced to work overtime in the jails. They're in unsafe situations because of the fatigue that they're going through. The 6 days a week, 16-hour days on patrol even is amazing for our staff, and they're really getting burned out. And it just shows the complete mismanagement, fiscal mismanagement of our department in the name of politics, so he can try and come across to the voters as this big fiscal guy that saved money.
Okay. The vast majority of our followers and members at CVine are obviously conservative, and we have a large following of law enforcement. Your Second Amendment advocates, I do know that the current sheriff, there's a 2-year waiting period for a CCW. If you get elected as sheriff, what would you do to alleviate that and speed up those processing times?
You may want to tell people what CCW is.
Oh,
that's
go ahead.
a concealed. It's an abbreviation for a concealed carry. I believe it's concealed carry weapon. I don't even really know where CCW comes from, but it's a concealed carry permit. It is a permit to carry a concealed weapon. Oh, there it is. CCW, carry concealed weapon. Here's a beautiful result of the primary election. Since Stan Sniff has taken over, there has been a 2-year wait to obtain a permit. When you call in to even get an appointment, they tell you that it's 18 months to 2-year wait. So, for instance, if you called in right now, October of 2018, your appointment would be in October of 2020. And it's historically been that since he took office. Again, his little blame game, he blames it on everything but himself. Even though he's been on the record as saying that he does not trust the general public to carry guns, only police, what he found out once he took office is the gun community, the Second Amendment community in Riverside County is quite large. And so that is a heated topic. So he has that, what I believe is a fabricated, and what I kind of have proven now, it's a fabricated 2-year wait just to dissuade people from applying. And the proof of that is after the primary election, I won the primary election. For an incumbent, I beat him by 5 points, which is politically is quite large.
Yes.
And part of the issue is always the issuance of concealed weapons permits, because the general public, there are a lot of people out there that want them. So he's always claimed this major wait and you know that he couldn't do anything about it. He even blamed it on terrorists. He said that our wait was because there was a terrorist attack and that caused too many people to apply. Then he would blame it on our budgets. Well, now we find that he failed to spend $10 million, that he could have been beefing up our CCW unit to get those processed faster, but he chose not to. And after I beat him in the election, since then, in the last 4 months, I guess, he is claiming now that 2-year wait is down to 6 months, and without issuing any permits. So he's eliminated roughly 18 months of permits, or of a backlog, how he calls it, and our permit numbers, based on his own numbers when he talks, have only gone up 400. So he's basically telling everybody that for 18 months there were only 400 people in the pipe. Nothing makes sense. It just shows he's dishonest. I am very pro Second Amendment. I am both parts of the Second Amendment, the right to keep and the right to bear. And with me as the sheriff, we will do everything possible to better our sister county, San Bernardino and Orange County. They're very they have a very good CCW processing unit, and they issue far more than us. Orange County has issued 17,000 permits in the last 3 years, and Stan claims he's a staunch supporter, and he's issued 3,000 in the last 11 years. So it'll change when I get in there. We'll put the resources in the program that we need to, but we will do everything we can to make sure that we're answering the calls of our constituents, the people that we're supposed to be serving, and we'll take care of that and get it down to a reasonable, couple-week period where we process those applicants.
That's great. You just made a whole lot of people much happier.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? I got a couple more questions. Don K. Okay, this is out there, so I'll just quote him. He says, when you talk to him, make sure to ask him about the tripod comment on his blog in reference to one of his lieutenants at the department who fought her way back to duty after a horrific accident and why he never apologized for it. You want to just address that, just since it's out there?
Wow. Actually, I'm going to have you ask me that again, because that is
apparently there is a comment on your log in reference to one of the lieutenants at the police department who had fought her way back to duty after a horrific accident. And
Okay.
apparently there was some comment that you never apologized for. I don't know what that is, and I don't know what he's referring to. I apologize. I just thought I'd...
That's all right. I'm gonna guess. And what he's saying is, you said he on my blog, correct?
No, it's about the tripod.
Yes, but and didn't you say a tripod comment that was on my blog?
Oh, yeah, on your blog, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So whoever asked that question is seriously misinformed, and this has come up. This has come up quite a bit during my campaign. There is a blog that is obviously out there on the internet, and it's a conservative blogger that has taken a hard stance against the current sheriff. And the sheriff is trying to do everything he can to make this blog somehow be attached to me. Now, I am not, this blog has absolutely nothing to do with my campaign. I have absolutely no idea who is funding that blog. The blogger is from Northern California, not South. So what we're learning about the blog is a lot of people from our department are giving information to him to blog about, and it's definitely hurting the sheriff. His unethicalness and his a lot of immoral and dishonest conduct from his administration is being exposed, and so they're trying to label this as me. So for this question to say, why did I not apologize for saying that? Number one, I never said it. That is not my blog. That did not come from me, and I have no idea who it came from. You know, to liken that, I would like to ask. You know, maybe we could ask that the person that asked that why he did not apologize for Hitler's actions during the war. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. Why would I apologize for something I didn't do or didn't have anything to do with? I think it's horrible that I know who they're referring to. We do have a captain that suffered an off-duty injury many years ago. She almost died. She's lucky she wasn't paralyzed, but she has some serious damage that she still suffers, and that is a horrible, disgusting way to refer to her. I obviously don't condone that. I think it's childish and rude to even say. But beyond that, that's not something I have to, or I should, apologize for. I even feel like I'm spending too much time on it now. Right. I didn't say it. I have no idea who said it, and it really doesn't concern me.
Well, good. Yeah, you know, it's good that you're addressing it. You're not hiding from it. So I have one final comment or question from Mike D. or Michael. He said, Stan Sniff says he's not qualified. I'd like to hear his answer to that. Could you address that?
Sure. I think it's hilarious that he says that because that's really the only thing he has to say about me. Right now we have a very good platform in this election. In this election, my platform is about changing the culture of our department to provide a better service. It's about revamping our personnel and corrections where we could save upwards of $10 million a year just in salary savings that the Board of Supervisors has already told me I could use elsewhere so I can hire more people. We are suffering from a morale crisis in our department that is causing employees to flee in numbers that we just can't sustain. So, upwards of 30 per month are leaving our agency to go work for somebody else. In addition, we have absolutely no relationship with our Board of Supervisors. We're not the current sheriff is not trusted by any of our contract cities to where they're trying to form their own JPA, Joint Powers Authority police station. They're trying to contract with different police agencies instead of the sheriff. He has absolutely no relationship with our chiefs of police. Look, this is the first time in the history of Riverside County that the incumbent sheriff is running for election without the support of any law enforcement agency or any current law enforcement leader. That speaks volumes in itself. There isn't anybody in law enforcement, current law enforcement, that believes the sheriff has any business being in that office. So when I talk about the issues that I'm going to make better and how I am going to lead this department, and then you combine that with the fact that the Deputies Association, the men and women doing the work, they are looking at me to be this leader. They are looking at me to have the vision and the mission of reaching that vision, and they are going to follow me. They're basically saying we have a no vote of confidence in the current sheriff, and we are going to lift you up and support you, and we are going to follow you as you make us right, as you make us better, as you lead us into a better future for Riverside County law enforcement. And you wrap all of that together, and the only thing that the sheriff says is, "I'm not qualified." In all actuality, the qualifications for the sheriff is this department needs a leader. This department needs a leader, and this is all about leadership ability. For anyone to believe that one person runs this department, I mean, come on, we're 4,000 members. It's a large organization. We've got jails, courts, the Coroner's Bureau, patrol, contract city. It takes many people to run this department, and it takes one to have the vision and the leadership ability to round everybody up behind them to move toward that vision. And that's what they're looking at me for. So this isn't about checking off the box and just being in the good old boy club and getting promoted for who you know and who you go golfing with and who you hang out with on weekends. This is about the ability to lead. And right now, law enforcement is telling the general public that they believe that person to lead this organization is me, and they are asking their help in voting for me in this election. So it cracks me up when all he has to say about this election is I'm not qualified. And it's just so he can push away from the fact that he's failed in every aspect of this job.
That's beautifully said. And, it's interesting when you've got people that are working in the trenches with you, basically in the middle of the war zone, so to speak, and working with you side by side over a long period of time. And those are the people that are screaming your praises, that, you should be sheriff. I don't think there's any higher accolade or testimonial that you could receive than from somebody who has direct experience and your line of sight on exactly what it is you have done and knows your history, background, and integrity, honesty, your heart, where you want to go with this. Nothing could speak with a purer heart than an entire group of people of your own constituents. So I think that's huge. We are pretty much at the end of our hour. They do cut us off after 60 minutes. I'd like to give you the last couple of minutes if there's something final you would like to say, and we'll go from there.
Of course, I'll keep it very brief. We've talked for an hour, and honestly, the passion that I have for this job, we would be eating breakfast together in the morning if you let me talk that long. This election is really about change. This election is changing the direction that Riverside County law enforcement is going. I will bring a completely different outlook of mutual cooperation between our police agencies, the cooperation with our police chiefs, a better working relationship with our Board of Supervisors, our contract cities, the transparency in our budget. We have never had it. There has never been transparency in our budget. It's just always give me more money and I'm not going to show you where I'm spending it. And that has to change. I believe that this taxpayer money is not only your money, it's my money too. And me being in a position to spend it, I am going to do my absolute best to prove to the Board of Supervisors and to the people that are voting for me that we are doing exactly that. We're doing exactly what we should be doing with your money to provide the best possible service at the cheapest possible cost while we're doing everything we can to be good stewards of that money. So this really is about change, and it comes down to if you're happy with the failed service that we have. The staffing in the county is bare minimum. We're not maintaining our ranks to how we should. We're not doing the cooperation with other people and with other agencies that we should. If you're happy with that, then maybe I'm not the person to vote for. But if you believe that we should be doing better every single day when we come to work, we should be striving to make something better, then it's obvious who your choice is. We've had 11 years of the current sheriff. He has made no indication that he is intending on changing path. So we will have 4 more if he's elected again. And I'm offering that change that we can make a difference finally in Riverside County and bring us up into 2018 where we should be.
Outstanding. Well, I think everybody on here agrees, and I certainly do, that Chad Bianco needs to be our next sheriff for Riverside County. No mistake about it. Chad Bianco. So thank you. Thank you very much, Chad, for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much,
this call will be. And thank you, Leonard, for working together with these questions. This call will be posted because it is recorded, and we look forward to seeing exactly what's going to happen, although I think I already know. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Leonard.
Thank you.